Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Got another Camaro in here, another 2002 V6 model. If you watched the last video, that was my son's car. This one is my car. This is kind of the one that started it all. It's the first and only car anyone's ever given me. Shout out Brett, you're awesome. When the car showed up, the motor in it was completely taken apart. Intake, a bunch of other parts, they were all missing, gone. The heads were gone, everything. I ended up going and getting a 98 and pulling the motor out of that. Ended up throwing the 98 motor in this car, and I drove it for about 2 years, and I just absolutely fell in love with this car. It's been my commuter back and forth to work. I commute about an hour every day one way. It's just been a great little car. I picked up that donor Camaro for $400, and then sold a bunch of parts, and then I sold the car to the crusher, got like $300 out of it. Anyway, basically I ended up getting this motor for free once you kind of calculate it all out. So it legit owes me nothing. But it did make me realize how much I really like these cars. And it led to the one that's over there in the corner. We're gonna get to that one. That is the hot rod that I'm working on. Tonight we're working on this one. It's in here because the engine blew up. Driving home one day from work, I could hear all sorts of lifter tick. The oil pressure dropped below 10 PSI, and it was just like, it was low on power.
Whoa, that sucks.
It's been sitting out next to the shop for, I don't know, the last 6 or 8 months or so. Let's talk about the motor a little bit and what the plan is. What we got in here is the GM 3800 Series 2 V6. It's not the hot rod motor, obviously. I think when Brett hooked me up with this car, I think he was thinking I would LS swap it. I would have loved to have done that. The only issue with it is that to do all that, by the time you spend all the money on the new K-member transmission, computer, wire harness,
and brakes, brake pads, lining, steering box, transmission, rear,
bells and whistles and ding dongs that you need to buy to make that work, I could have just went ahead and bought a whole V8 car. So I ended up skipping it. Just been running the V6, which has actually been great because it's good on gas. This engine makes about 200 horsepower from the factory. I got to look it up. I think it's around 200 pound-feet of torque too. I'm going to replace it with this. This is out of a 2006 Buick LeSaron. This is also a GM 3800, but this is a Series 3. It's same block, same heads. Pretty much most of it is all the same. This particular specimen came out of an old lady car. I saw pictures of it online. Looked like a pretty well-maintained car until someone broadsided it. It had 110,000 miles on it when it was pulled. It looks pretty clean to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and run it. This thing I paid about $300 for, and I can buy these all day long for that. Anyway, so the plan is to basically strip this thing down, get all the front drive components off. You can see that this is clearly the front of the engine, but the intake is located back here, right there. That's because this engine came out of a front drive car and it's transversely mounted, so it doesn't really matter what side, what end of the engine the intake is on, because it's just going to be sideways anyway. We're going to lose the intake, the exhaust manifolds. I'm probably going to keep the injectors because this one still has the 98 injectors in it. Anyway, we'll have to strip this down, so I'll get it to that later in the video. We're going to do some upgrades to this guy. I'm going to throw a cam in this. There's a company out there, ZZP Performance, that specializes in the GM 3800. They're mostly into like the turbo and supercharged applications, but they do NA stuff. I went ahead and got the ZZP GT2 Cam. I will go over the specs on that when it comes in. It's due in like tomorrow or the next day. I also sent the computer for this car and had them reflash it with their 1.0 tune. There's going to be a few other things that go along with that, including a valve train upgrade. There's a timing chain in here. We're going to be swapping the single roller out for a double roller timing chain. And then I've got a header kit for it, which I'll drag out and show you. The claims on this, I mean, I'm not going to go get it dynoed or anything, but the claims on this, 240 horsepower once it's all said and done. So hang in there. Here we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started with stripping all the front drive crap off of this thing. I'm just going to time lapse me taking pretty much everything off of here. All right. got the engine stripped down to just the long block here. I'm going to be waiting on some parts to come in from ZZP. Hopefully they'll all arrive tomorrow, and then I can get to partially assembling this thing. I still have to remove the engine out of the Camaro. I'll have to clean up and transfer some of the parts from that engine to this one because we're changing this engine from front drive to rear drive. So I gotta use all the Camaro parts on this. So that'll take some time. But I should be able to get cam and valve train and stuff done here, and then I'll just wrap it up and set it aside until I'm ready to start transferring parts. I'm just kind of spending some time with a wire wheel, a wire brush, kind of cleaning up the outside, trying to knock some of the goop off of it. I'm planning on painting it. I might have mentioned that already. I want to paint it Chevy orange. I think it'd just be a cool little ode to the old small block Chevys. Even though in the car there's so much gear on it and wires and crap that it's going to be kind of hard to see. But I thought, what the hell, I'm going to do it. I got the engine out. Might as well make it look nice. Stand by. All right, it's the next day, and Mark got a box of goodies from ZZP. Let me show you what we got. Oh, don't trip over the cat. He's chilling. We'll start with the obvious since it's all bright red and everything. These are ZZP's upgraded spark plug wires. They're the 10.5 millimeter, I guess high energy. I can't remember what they call them, but they're basically like, you know, the MSD upgrade for your spark plug wires. And then all the stuff that we need here for our cam swap. I basically just bought their GT2 cam kit, and it came with the cam itself, and I'll unbox that here in a second. And then it came with all the other stuff. Extra thick timing cover gasket. And if you're looking at this, it is way thicker than your standard timing cover gasket. There's a good reason for that. The machined oil pump cover. And what this is, I can open it. This will be the first time I've opened it since I got it. So we'll see how she looks. But yeah, this is it's a standard oil pump cover. This is goes on the back of the timing cover, and I'll show you in just a minute. Except for you can see all the milling marks. They actually machine it down. I'm not sure how much material they take off, but they take it down to add clearance. Over here is the timing cover. Let's see here. Right there is the back of the oil pump cover that's inside this big timing cover. So that's the cover. You can look and see. I don't know if you can tell, but the thickness on that's way thicker. And the reason why we need the clearance is we are running a double roller timing set. This is their Rollmaster setup, and if you look real close, it's basically like two chains side by side. We'll get a closer look when we install it. It needs a little bit more space, so that's why this is machined a little bit thinner and this is thicker, just to get us that extra space in there. That is all part of the cam kit. Also, what came with the cam kit are the 150-pound valve springs. We'll be swapping those guys out. Modified steel valve spring retainers. These are nicer, a little bit lighter, so we'll get those on there to fit. And then they also sent me another cam bolt to bolt everything together. Also came with new hydraulic lifters. I'm going to leave those in there for now because they're a little oily. I guess we can start unboxing some stuff. Oh, got the high voltage ignition coil pack. Let's unwrap that.
Open the box!
Pop these babies open. Honestly, to me, I mean, forget all the performance stuff. I think they just look cool. Hate to fall for the dazzleitis, but these are a little bit more powerful coils, so this is an ignition upgrade. Basically, they're high voltage coil packs. They'll supply a stronger spark, which can let you run a larger gap on your spark plugs. And supposedly, it'll improve fuel economy, and it just sort of keeps your ignition from getting in the way of any horsepower. And when we're talking about a low displacement like this, every little bit, I think, kind of counts. But I'll show you the difference if I can dig this guy out of here. So that's what they look like. There's 3 of them, and they go in line. But on the car, that's what they are on the car. I don't know if you can see, like that's where they mount, and they just all mount in line there. And so basically, this is the exact same thing, except there'll be 3 of them there, along with the wires for the upgrade. Set that aside. And so let's see. So we got the cam kit and the ignition, and then the other final piece of this is going to be the ECM. ZZP does this pretty cool setup. It's all done through HP tuners, but if you don't want to buy HP tuners, or you don't really understand what the hell is going on inside these like me, you can actually send this off and their tuners will reflash it for you. This is the ECM out of my Camaro, and it's basically you just fill out some basic information, give them the VIN number and all that stuff, and they tune it for you. There's a big list. If I can figure out how to do it, I will scroll that across the screen for you on the modifications, at least that they did to my ECM. I'm told, or I've heard, or I've read that you don't need to do this for the cam swap, but it's a pretty good idea just to take advantage of it. So you can see in here that they actually noted on here that it's the GT2 cam. The lowest number octane that I could select was 91. We run a little bit lower where I live, just because of altitude and stuff. If I run premium, I can get up there or get above that. So I'll probably run some premium on this, just so I'm not having any detonation issues. I did like the little note. Tables are more aggressive. Thanks, guys. That's what I was going for. More aggressive. So let's see. Let's pull this cam out. This is going to be kind of oily. Judging from the packaging, ZZP takes their cams pretty dang serious. I'm going to see if I can get you set up here so I can use both my hands. Got the vise holding you. So we'll just lift this off. I feel like I'm unboxing a new iPhone or something, or a big giant iPhone. So first thing first, got your cam card. I'll let you read this. I'll be honest with you, I barely know anything about cams. I know that, you know, a 500 lift is pretty decent. This one's, I just know, supposed to be good for some extra horsepower. Anyway, let's drag this thing out of here. I got it wrapped up real nice. So yeah, they really took care of the packaging on this. You know, I've bought a few things from ZZP in the past, and they do seem to take their products very seriously. It is nice, like, when you order stuff from a company, and I will say, I mean, their prices actually kind of make it to where this stuff, you can actually afford to buy it and have some fun. So I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it, and it's a pretty good company, and they seem to be starting to break out from the 3800 stuff. Looks like they do some 4-cylinder stuff, some Chevy 4-cylinder stuff. They're also breaking into the LS market. I would check them out. I was turned on to ZZP just because I was curious about what people are doing to these 3800s, and this was what popped up. Now you can get a cam for your 3800 from the standard cam manufacturers like Comp Cams, and I think it's Intense Engineering, and they're all pretty good companies. This is going to take me forever to work this up. Most of my dealing's been with ZZP, and they're pretty good company. Their customer service is pretty dope. Like, if I call them right now, I bet you I'd get someone on the phone, or at least send them an email, someone will respond. So that's going to be the new bump stick. And this is, if you check out the lobes, you can tell, this is a roller cam. And it's got laser etching on the front. Let you know it's a GT2 RPM cam. The videos I've seen online, it sounds pretty dope at idle. This should make the motor pretty pissed. We'll start working on getting this stuff thrown in there. I'm probably only going to get so far tonight just due to time. We'll get as far as we can, probably throw the cam in and at least get the lifters soaking. I like to let those soak overnight in oil just to make sure that they're full and ready to go. Hang in there. All right, that got unexpectedly frustrating. Just to recap, I start and stop the camera several times while I fought with this stupid thing, and eventually just had to turn off the camera, walk away for a few minutes, spout off a few choice words. These double roll masters, now this is, if you look, the original was just like one width wide, and you can see that's actually two, looks like two chains side by side. That's the upgrade. It's stronger. I think the theory behind it is that with your higher lift cam, it's a little more reliable in that it keeps the cam turning and everything. Anyway, because it's a double roller, it does not use the tensioner that was here originally. If you recall back in the beginning of the video, when I was stripping this thing down, there was a tensioner here. Might be able to find it laying over here. Yeah, here it is. This thing, it's screwed right in here, and it puts spring pressure against this chain right here, and then takes the slack out of it, because when you're installing the original stock chain, there's a bunch of slack for install. In this case, there is no slack whatsoever, so you don't reinstall the tensioner, you just get this on. Now, that means that you've got to line up your timing marks, which if you look here, there's this little dot hit the bottom. I don't know if you guys can see that. Get a little closer here. There's a little dot right there at the bottom, and you can't see it, but there's a right here, right next to this tooth, there's a number 2 right here. But that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the 0 that's up here. Now on the stock gear, you can see, here's a dot that you can see, yeah. So stock gear right there, you can see that little dot, that's your timing mark. So you would line up this dot with this dot on the original chain and you're all set. This Rollmaster set, it's got all these different little keyways on here where you can actually retard or advance the crank gear here. We're not doing that. We're just setting it up at straight 0 according to ZZP's instructions. So it's at 0. That means that this little 0 over here is on this keyway, and then there's another 0 up here on the tooth that you can't really see because of the discoloration, but there's a 0 there, and I'm lining it up with this right here. Because there was no slack, this is like totally tight now. I actually ended up just popping that back cover off the back of the motor. The cam will slide all the way through the engine and out the back with that cover off. So I was actually able to slide the cam back. I didn't let it come off the bearings, but I was able to move it back far enough to where I could get this up there and then hold it and get it lined up and then push from the back the cam forward into it. So what I'm gonna do now that I'm this far, because I don't wanna lose where I'm at, so I'm gonna throw some blue Loctite, or well, it's not Loctite, it's thread locker, JB Weld brand this time, and get that on there. And then what that's going to do is that should pull the cam as I tighten this. It should pull everything together and sort of lock it in. If you watched just before I started this process, right after I put the cam in, there's a cam plate that basically screws on, and that holds the cam from going this way forward. Anyway, once we get this tight, everything should line up good. So just wanted to explain the struggle there, since that interrupted me in my time lapse. All right, on to the next thing. Okay, I thought I'd take a minute and just talk about what I'm doing here. Basically, I started out, I got this nice spring compressor tool from Eastwood, and it works fine for taking the stock springs off, but trying to compress these 150-pound springs it wants to fling them off, shoot them, it won't hold them. I even tried putting a hose clamp around it to try to hold it. As soon as I loosen the hose clamp, everything shoots. Almost lost a retainer and some locks, and so I got ticked off, and I went and got an old scrap piece of angle iron and a bolt. And basically what I did was I took my carbide bit and just wallered out a big hole right there, and I'm putting the bolt into these holes here, just through there, and then just using the leverage to compress the spring, and that's what's getting it done for me. An hour to do one with that stupid Eastwood deal, and I've been averaging about, I don't know, 5 minutes on each one ever since I started using the cheap scrap piece of metal. Anyway, just want to point that out. Moving on, we've got 7 more to do, or at least this one and plus 6. Here we go. Well, this video escalated quickly. After doing some editing, I realized that I'm sitting at about 25 minutes now, probably 30 after I'm done editing, and that's pretty big time commitment to ask someone to sit here and listen to me yammer on and tinker with cars. So I'm going to break it up into a 2-part or 3-part series. In the next video, you'll see me getting the motor out of this thing. I also have the replacement engine painted, and it came out sweet. So if you want to see that, tune in for the next one. I really appreciate everyone hanging out and watching. We'll see you on the next one.